What's up guys, my name is Pell, and today I'm going to teach you guys how to touchdown rise. So I was really hesitant at first to make this video because I feel like my touchdown rise isn't really there yet, but I got a video request asking if I could make a touchdown rise tutorial. So I'm going to teach you guys how you can kind of approach the move, different ways you can learn the move, and then different ways you can use other techniques to actually improve your touchdown rise as well. So yeah, hopefully this helps. So first and foremost, I usually make physical therapy videos. This is like a rehab kind of channel, but occasionally I do post tricking edits and stuff like that. But if you or someone you know is kind of injured, check out some of the other videos on my channel. They might help you out. Anyways, let's get started. How to learn touchdown rise in the first place, because to begin with, we want to have some kind of move or something that we're comfortable with to start off, and then we can kind of make edits from it from there. So touchdown rise is like a perfect cross between a Gumbi, a Roundoff, and also a tornado kick and a Valdez. If you can kind of implement all these techniques into the one trick, your touchdown rise should carry a lot of power, but be linear enough for you to get height, get spin, and etc. out of it. So me, I'm a tricker, and my foundation is more tricking based. If you are a tumbler or a gymnast and you have more of that kind of foundation, the way you are going to learn touchdown rise is going to be different. And the way you learn touchdown rise is going to be exact opposite of how you are going to improve your touchdown rise, because we want these two techniques to merge. So just a heads up, I twist to the right. If most people twist to the left, and if you twist to the left, just kind of like apply these things towards your technique. It's pretty much the same thing, but yeah, it just might look a little awkward. Prerequisites towards this move, I don't really have much besides maybe cartwheel and tornado kick. Those are maybe the most important prereqs you need. Of course, if you can Valdez, if you can Gumbi, and things like that, it will make your life a lot easier, but you'll kind of learn this along as a process because they're pretty much the same move. So touchdown rise is a rise, and touchdown rise is a Gumbi. These three are all the same moves, give or take a hand or two. So when you're training this move, you want to treat them all as the same. You want to do them all like they're the same move, and even if it feels awkward, even if it feels different, pretend they're the same move until the techniques actually begin to merge. So first step in getting your touchdown rise, if you can tornado kick, I'll show you kind of my method of how I learned it. So basically I would start with what's called a dancer rise. It's basically a tornado kick with an extended leg, and you don't kick the actual round kick. So it's just like a floaty tornado kick with your legs sticking out. And then maybe you can kind of push your hips out and lean back a little bit, and that makes it more a little like an actual rise. People will put their hands on the back of their heads and call this like a lazy boy or whatever. It's the same move. Basically, you're just doing a vertical rise. This is a good way to kind of test and feel out where you are in the air and where you're going to land in the air when you're first starting out for rise. Note that obviously it's not going to be exactly like a touchdown rise. And then step two would be to move on from there. This is of course the tricker way of learning rise. The gymnast way, I'll kind of I'll go over that after. Just make sure you watch this entire video, because all points of this tutorial is kind of important. If you skip out on one part of it, you might find out that your touchdown rise is giving you problems later and you're not sure why. That's because all these aspects are important to have like a good foundation. So yeah, anyways, you got your dancer rise, cool. Your floaty, nice. Next, we want to start adding a little more inversion. So if you can, instead of looking forward like you would for a tornado kick, you want to change your spot towards the ground before and after the flip. So you can do this gradually. So you just start off with your little dancer rise, and you start looking at the ground more and more, and you should feel that your rise is starting to invert a little bit. Something that I want to note is that you also want to change your hand direction. So instead of rotating your arms from left to right or right to left, whatever, you're going to go over your head and straight down and then around, because that'll force you to invert more. If you turn to the side, obviously you're going to go more vertical, and you're just not going to get the kind of momentum that you want. So we move on to that. We invert our rise slightly more. From here, you should start to see that it starts to feel a little bit like a B twist. minus the initial twist, and also kind of like a side flip a little bit. That's okay, that's good. From here, we're gonna just start trying to put our hand down. So for me, I would put my right hand down. For you, it would be your left hand down. We can start to think of it kind of like a scoot. Understand that this is like the preliminary stages of your touchdown rise. It's not supposed to look like an actual touchdown rise, but this will get you the air awareness and the kind of feel of a touchdown rise in the first place. Remember, this is a easy move to learn, very, very hard move to master. Okay, maybe not very hard move, but harder move to master. So we're gonna start with our new rise, and then at the very end of our flip, when we put our foot down, we're just gonna try and match our arm with that foot and put our hand down at almost the same time. We're just gonna drill this over and over and over until we're comfortable with it, because if we're comfortable with it, then we can make edits to it and make it better. So just do a rise, put your hand down with your foot down at the same time. And then once we're comfortable with this, we're gonna start to want to put our hand down before our foot actually goes down. So first we get our foot down, then we get them at the same timing, and then we start to put our hand down more, like we're almost reaching for the ground. And then once you've got that, that's basically a touchdown rise. It's a very sideways off axis one, but nonetheless, it's something we can work with. So at first, this was kind of how I started to get my touchdown rise. Another thing I tried was I would do a cheat setup into a Valdez or a Masterscoot. I used kind of Masterscoot because putting one hand down was kind of sketchy in that off-axis momentum, because it wasn't like a true touchdown rise. It could be like damaging towards your wrist, so be careful. So I would just cheat setup, Masterscoot, or cheat setup Valdez, and this has the same kind of momentum, has the same kind of look, except that we're not kicking up backwards. So the important part about a touchdown rise is that it shouldn't be all backwards. There is a forward component to it, and the forward component of it should be very strong, because that is what's going to actually take us more linear. The more backwards we try to go, the more around we actually end up going. So a good drill for this is if you just do a cheat setup, put your hand down and kick up your back leg as hard as possible. So for me, it would be my right leg. For you, it could be your left leg or something, depending on which way you spin. But yeah, that's basically the trickier way of getting a rise. I'll tell you guys how you can kind of improve it later in the next step. So if you are a gymnast or have more of a tumbling background, the way you would get your touchdown rise is more linear. You're going to treat it more like a Roundoff slash Gumbi. So Gumbi is essentially a Roundoff. I'm not going to go too detailed into Gumbi and rise. This is just primarily TD rise right now. But Gumbi is primarily, it's just like a Roundoff with a cheat setup off-axis momentum and your legs split apart. So it should have that same kind of feel as a Roundoff, but you're turning a bit more. So if you are a gymnast or a tumbler, you have a good Roundoff, you're going to do your opposite side Roundoff, preferably from front swing, because then it makes you like kick over. I'll show some example clips of how some other gymnast based trickers have learned their like Gumbis and touchdown rises. It's basically just like a Roundoff. From here, you're only going to put your second hand down, and that's basically a touchdown rise. You might not get the same kind of momentum because you really have to swing your arms around for that. But if you're comfortable doing that, then you have something to work with. Yeah. So the biggest problems that trickers have is that when they learn this off-axis touchdown rise, they don't get much momentum out of it, and it doesn't look that great because they're not traveling linear enough. So after you learn this first step, the way you want to improve it would be by learning the gymnast method, the Gumbi, the Roundoff and whatnot. And even if your Gumbi is kind of trash, if you're just doing like an offside cartwheel, if you start to think of your touchdown rise like that, it'll improve your touchdown rise regardless. Just note that the better your Gumbi is, the better your touchdown rise will be. For gymnasts, it would be the opposite, because generally you're traveling very linear. You want to add spin and add turn into your touchdown rise to make it more on that perfect line, you know what I mean? And the way you can do this is by adding a cheat setup and really trying to spin and kick almost in a circle, like a wheel kick almost, or by adding a hook in front of your Gumbi or touchdown rise. That'll start to make it more off axis and give you a little more spin. And then I would just drill this over and over, and that's how you get more comfortable, basically. Another thing that can help you if you are traveling too linear and you want to turn more is after you enter your touchdown rise, you want to look in the direction that you're spinning. So for example, if I go into my touchdown rise, I want to start looking right after I have this forward momentum. That's going to give me a little more spin. For you, it might be towards the left, whatever. But yeah, look the way you're going. If you are having difficulty swinging out of it, you can always start by swinging 540. So you just go into your touchdown rise, you lift your leg like you're doing a baby gainer, and you do like a really, really exaggerated cheat gainer. And this should get you more used to swinging out of it until you are able to actually get the momentum for it. I also recommend that you try to Macaco or Valdez out of your touchdown rise, because this forces you to get more flip coming out of your touchdown rise. Something else that can help you start swinging out of touchdown rise would be to alternate with scoot gainer. A touchdown rise is basically like a scoot, at least the way you come out of it, except the whole beginning part is completely different. But the hand down, the foot down, that thing is the same. So if you're able to scoot gainer and alternate that when you're training with touchdown rise swing through gainer, you should be able to relate the motion of swinging out through after putting that hand down. The only thing I would caution is that you don't try to like scoot too much. Remember, we want to go overhead a little bit more. Something that'll help your leg carry through all the way would be to try to scrubba or Sailor Moon. Scrubba is basically a Gumbi, but you put your arms down individually. So you put your first hand down, then your second hand down, and they don't ever stay on the ground at the same time. Sailor Moon would be like a rise with the first hand only, and this will get you to kick around all the way. You can treat it like a one-handed cartwheel at first, but of course, try and get more spin. Another tip I have, if you have too much spin and you're trying to get more linear, is to do your cheat setup and then mark your hand placement. So you got two hands coming forward. You got the one you're placing your hand down, that one's going to come down forward, and you got your second one. The second one is the one you want to mark. Try pretending like you're putting it down exactly in a Gumbi, and then as long as you can in a straight line all the way down, like you're putting it down in a Gumbi, and then you can even touch the floor if you really need to. But then wait as long as you can and then go into your touchdown rise. This is going to help you travel more linearly, because oftentimes you tend to swing your arm around to your shoulder, but in reality we want to swing our arm straight down, like we're going as linearly as possible. So try that. Another thing that might be causing you to give you too much spin is that your foot actually over cheats and it points around instead of pointing forward. You got to treat touchdown rise a little bit more like a tumbling move. So step forwards instead of over cheating and stepping around. That should help your touchdown rise travel a little more linearly. A lot of people have compared touchdown rise to like back handspring and Valdez because there is a falling motion. If you try to stay too high, you're going to end up jumping upwards, and then that jumping upwards isn't good for you, because then you can't really put your hand down in the right motion. I would suggest you train your back handsprings. They will help a lot, because we're supposed to act like we're falling into the move almost. So you're going into your cheat setup, and then you want to ideally catch the feeling that you're falling over as soon as possible, and then right when you wait for that moment, that's when you go into your touchdown rise, because then we have the gravitational momentum basically pulling us into the trick instead of us trying to like pull ourselves into the trick, you know what I mean? You can achieve this by starting low, so getting as low as possible and then going into your touchdown rise, but later, ideally, we want to stand up as high as we can in touchdown rise and still achieve that same falling momentum. The reason being is that we will get more momentum out of it the higher we start off. but it's just harder to get that timing right so we can start low if we need it. Okay, so I think that pretty much wraps it up. My main point of this is that whenever you get your touchdown rise from whatever method you use, whether it's the dancer rise method, the kind of cheat into a Valdez method, or the Gumbi or whatever method, you have to kind of merge the techniques. So you don't want it to be just a Valdez. Yes, some trickers do it, but I think the best touchdown rise has a combination of all these techniques, because then you get forward swinging momentum and also backwards momentum. Yeah, hopefully this helped you guys. Good luck training, good luck tricking, and I hope you guys get your touchdown rise. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section down below. And if you have any video requests, you can leave them down there too, and then maybe I'll get to them in the near future. Also, don't forget, if you have any injuries or debilitations or something like that, I have a ton of videos listed on that on this channel, so be sure to check them out. Thanks for watching. See you guys in another video. Peace.